Good evening to everyone, to y'all. How are everyone this evening? It is Ryan from the Feathers Elite Racing Pigeon Network. It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. Sure, in Australia it's Thursday, but it's Wednesday here in North America. And we like to bring you One Loft Wednesdays, where we talk to John Timmerman from the California Classic. You know, you've heard me talk about this man for years. Ever since I've come on this show for like 9 years now, I always said, one Loft races, you're going to hold the bar. There's a level. John Timmerman is the GOAT. He is your Michael Jordan. He's not your LeBron James. There's a million LeBron James out there, but there's only one GOAT, and that is John Timmerman in One Loft Racing. Again, this is just my opinion, so don't throw stones at me. But you participate in the race and you see year in, year out, the man gets the job done. Enough of this. I pumped the tires too much. This is One Lap Wednesdays from the Feathers Elite Racing Pigeon Network. We're going to get this started in 3 seconds. Three, two, one. Here we go, guys. You're going to get to ask your questions with the one, the only, John Timmerman. San Diego, California, California Classic. Royal Cup. Here's the man. That music just ends so abruptly. I hate that shit, but oh well. Here we go, guys. You know me. I know you. And the guy to the right of the screen, some love him, some hate him. He's put a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets for a lot of years. How did he do that? He is John Timmerman. John,
Yes,
yes,
sir. How are you, Ryan?
you're back again for another week of One Loft Wednesday punishment. We've said we're going to have some guests on. We're going to get guests on, but just not tonight. Just not, tonight's still going to be you and me. Your man in Hawaii, we played phone tag. I can't get a hold of him, but we're going to try. And that's cool. People, if you are watching, post your comments and your questions. Keep the questions simple. I don't like big, long sentences. I can only put together about 20 words and then I start to stutter. That's my HDRD kicking in. I'm just letting you guys know. And again, please don't forget to subscribe. Uh, if you are sending birds to the California Classic and the Royal Cup, first question, John, of the evening before, how you actually really are doing. You still accepting birds?
We're finishing up this Saturday. That's with replacements and everything. We should be over 1,600 in one race and almost 800 in the other race. So we close to 2,400 pigeons on the property.
Whoa, okay. Congratulations. Congratulations. I mean, that is a job well done. Yes, I'm almost feeling in your voice slightly from when I talked to you on the phone. You're at the you don't want to you don't want to do another 3 weeks of intake, do you?
No, it's things are going to happen. The older ones, there's things go, things happen, and then you get these new ones, and it starts all over again. I want to get these birds on a program, and let's get it going. So yes, I am ready to stop the intake real quick, real soon. Put it that way.
Yeah, it's funny here. I've got some birds here that I'm breeding some Van Lars, and you notice, do you ever? I mean, yeah, I think you've already noticed it with your one lock, but you notice, and for people that might not understand what John's saying, you raise two, three rounds of youngsters. Sometimes if you raise a fourth round or a fifth round, by that time you're almost like, I'm sick of young pigeons. I'm just sick of this. I'm done. I don't want to do it. I'm not interested. The fun level wore off, and I have a feeling that's where you're at because you're almost. you're ready to grow and to blossom and to get the birds to the next step. Since you've taken the birds in, again, you said 2,400 roughly on the property, give or take, guys. Don't nail us to the cross on this one. You can go on the California Classic website. You can go on the Royal Cup website. You can take a look. Check out the San Diego Triple Crown as well. I don't know how many birds they have. I think this is what their last week as well.
Yeah, he should be close to reaching 500, if not a little over. You know, we both experienced some, some losses. Either birds need to be replaced, or Ahmad, he had a couple flyaways, and so yeah, he's doing his best to finish up this week as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing how every year it comes to that same time where you're ready to progress. Overall, what's your feeling of the group as a whole? I know you have younger ones; it's hard to say, but I guess maybe the question is, when do you start to feel like you've got control of the monster a little bit more? When does that come for you? When do you
Uh,
find that?
when you got the last birds trapping in, I mean, we still got a slew of pigeons the last 3 weeks that need to be settled. Pigeons that came in this last week got to be settled. So there's a lot of work cut out for us in a short amount of time, because we like to actually be on the road first second week of August. Not far, but we like to start working with the pigeons at that point. So uh, it'll be interesting. The weather's been really good for us the last week and a half, and of course I hope that continues. They are expecting a rainy season, but for us down here we don't get a lot of rain. It's the heat that we have to look out for, and what they call the monsoons, where you're dealing with tropical storms and high humidity. That always comes in late July, early August, throughout August, and usually the first week of September, first second week of September, we're dealing with that.
Yeah,
So, but I always, it doesn't matter. We still try to stay ahead of the game. For us in our part of town, you're dealing with that, of course, but then the possibility of fires, and you never know how serious that can happen, or what's going to be on the terrain, or how that could lay you up. We do our best to stay on track with our races end in November, so that's kind of why we just keep staying on top of it. So
yeah, yeah. And overall, between both lofts, is one impressing you more, one you feel a little better of, or both the same? I know having them both
um,
on the same property, not so far apart. Uh,
right
do you
now,
really
right
notice the
now,
difference?
yeah, right now the Royal Cup has been extremely well. Of course, you got different breeders, uh, but the pigeons overall and the Royal are they're just doing a little better. But that always seems to change when we start really getting the birds in form on the California, and we start moving them down the road. It always seems to balance itself out. And but as far as any kind of issues, health issues, yeah, the Royal's been a lot better this year than the California. And go figure. I mean, it's just this is just in the intake. Pigeons having a difficult time surviving just on the intake. And overall, the pigeons really, I haven't had any issues with birds being 4 or 5 days in the box. Just a handful of guys. So there's no excuse for that. Some of it's possibility, vaccines, people not vaccinating, maybe sending the birds too late, and the birds are getting a dose from me. Possibility, but then there's so many other pigeons doing well. So I haven't really nailed it down. I mean, again, these are pigeons that haven't even been in the loft. These are pigeons that are just coming in through quarantine. So, and it's a handful of breeders that have these problems, and I've talked to these breeders to find out what it possibly could be, and so I've always been a firm believer with the vaccines and all that. I try to do them up front, but now, I kind of look at things that is it possible, some of these vaccines, we can only go by what we're told. Is it possible some of these vaccines might be a little stronger than they're supposed to be? And, these pigeons being a certain age, it's a little too much for some to handle. So, it's just, it's one of those things that you're dumbfounded because they're pigeons and you have group A that's no problems. And then you got the second group that, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So,
Hey, it happens. Again, I look at some guys here, and we've got some comments, and I always tell the people, guys, this gentleman on the screen, for you people who do not know him, this is John Timmerman. You may think I'm making a joke and saying, "Oh, this is the greatest one loss handler." This guy is a very, very good top handler since the early 2000s. He has been one loss playing, handling. His results are fantastic. He races the toughest course, I would say, in the United States. One of the toughest, because people will throw stones. So let's say one of the toughest. But year in and year out, he gets big numbers of birds. He gets them to do a very tough course, puts on a great spread. People come from all over. They visit, even from England, they come and visit this race, and it is done so well. And I have always said, I've told some guys, I told my friend Florian Hendricks, they're starting a big race in Dubai. I said, I have your log manager for you. And he said, Ryan, I'm going to hire you. And I said, no, 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 no. I said, no, the goat. And he said, who's the goat? And I said, the guy in California. He said, John Timmerman. I said, yeah. I said, that's the guy that you want. His attention to detail from start to finish is so good. And guys, just listen. If you hear what he's saying, Bird's coming in and he picks up on the problems before he even amalgamates. That is a guy working for you. That's a breeder working for the perch feast. Not only John, but his staff. And I said to you guys, ask the questions. Put your comments in. Don't be shy. No question stupid. We've got some here. 888, well, four eights, a lot of eights here. I prefer the number nine, but you like eights, it's okay. This channel is the best thing on the internet. Well, I love eights too. I'm not gonna lie. Kate Man says, "Hello, everyone. Hey, hey, hey. My man from the UK, Les Gerard. Hey, now, how are you doing?" And Lou says, "Evening, Ryan and John." And we're watching and enjoying. So, John, when these birds are coming in, what what's the red light? Where do you see it? Is it taking them out of the box? Is it the 3 seconds in your hand? Something's not feeling right. Is it putting them in the cage? They're a little dizzy. What is it where do you see the red lights and you go, whoa?
I'm just using this for example. This year, I've had pigeons come out of the box and they were super, no issues. Boxes are clean. I mean, the breeders actually nowadays overall have really taken the time to uh, spread their birds out. When I say spread their birds out, they got a 4-bird box and they only put 2. I've had breeders just put 1. So that's been huge positive from what it was 20 years ago. And I mean, we still get our breeders. I'll take one person in for example this year. He had four babies in a 2-bird box. But you know what? Each one was outstanding, and he never has issues. And he's always a guy that does extremely well. Um, so shit, sometimes what do we know? I mean, to me, it always all goes back. A lot of it, all this, the sickness, the problems will go back to your breeders. And, uh, if the birds are keeling over within a week, there's something, it's either the vaccine's too strong um, or there's too much on the system of the bird. And that's what I'm, leaning more towards. And that's nobody's fault. It's just sometimes manufacturers, what we're dealing with, because we're only doing what we're told. I mean, hey, I'm not giving myself a shot of RP to see how it affects me, right? And some pigeons just have a stronger constitution than others. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And guys, if you want to see John inject himself, post in the
Yeah.
comments. And we'll see if you'll do it online. No, I'm not making a joke. Do you think? I know talking with Chris DeBecker, guys. I talked about this earlier in the week on one of my shows. I have a loft tour. My first one or two loft tours. Watch the whole thing. His first loft tour, I believe. He talked about vaccinating, and he vaccinates his young birds 6, 7 times. He does the rota, the PNV, he does the herpes, he does the pox, and he does it in about 15-day increments. And I'm almost wondering, do you think, you ban the youngsters, and the youngsters are about 19 days old. Most people aren't weaning. Do you think maybe that's the best time to hit them? Do you think it's better to wean them for a week or two and then hit them? What do you think?
I mean, uh, hey, I had the mindset of Chris DeBucker, but then in the last 5 6 weeks watching these pigeons and seeing things that have happened, I started going, is it right? In fact, I don't know who I spoke with today. um, oh, I do know it was Dan out of Santa Barbara that his feeling, he was experimenting with this team, waiting 4 months for them to develop a little bit more before he inoculates for anything. So you have all these different theories. I mean, I know myself that I think it's easier on the birds when they're younger. And, on my own personal team, hey, there's still always a percentage of pigeons that are going to go to the wayside. It doesn't matter. And that's what you're looking for as far as, trying to find a family of birds or find a few good pigeons that are able to tolerate, so, a lot of different things. Um,
Mm.
there's a lot of variables involved that some guys are doing a lot of heavy inbreeding, line breeding, sending these birds to an OLR. The birds are going to have a little weaker immunity and they go to the wayside. Um, when you have 100 pigeons in your backyard, you're only talking, 5 6 pigeons, 8 pigeons, but you multiply that times 1,000 birds in an OLR, one loft race. Well, you got big numbers now. Things happen.
Yeah.
So, I'm just looking, like I said, for me, for everything that I do for the birds, I want 100% satisfaction, and I don't know if that will happen. Maybe, I've been doing it for so long and trying to keep myself focused and looking at all the variables that how do you do it right to make sure you got everything on hand, vaccines and electrolytes and medication, just in case there's an issue. And in the end, it comes down to the quality of the bird and the quality of how the breeder is actually taking care of the birds. Like I said before, I don't think any breeder is purposely going to send you, they're trying to send their best. And the same thing applies for any one of these guys doing a one loft race. They're there to do their best for the pigeons. So there's just variables involved. Like I said, I go back to my friend Bill over in Vegas, where 3 years ago he's looking at me like, well, it's you. And then he goes and gets his birds tested, and he finds out he's got 3 or 4 different issues with his pigeons. He calls heavy. He calls them more than 60, 70% almost on his breeders. And now he sends me an army of pigeons, which not just for his name, but for a few of his friends and family members that, he really wants to test his birds. So that's why he comes in with these big numbers. And when I say he only loses 2 or 3, that's on the high side. He just has, I mean, his results, and he'll tell you, I mean, if anybody wants to speak with the man, he'll tell you everywhere he sends pigeons, he doesn't lose them anymore like he did. And it all went back to his breeders. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, I agree with you. I was talking with a good friend of mine in Australia, and uh he bought a pigeon from he bought a pair of pigeons from a guy. And the guy, he was an older gentleman, and the guy said, put these together, blah blah blah, okay? And it was an older guy. They were Leo Herman's birds. It's great. Okay. We were just talking, and he said, I bred 6 youngsters out of this pair. He says, I don't got one left. And he says, the pair is beautiful. And I said, oh, yeah. And he said to me today, he called me, he said, son of a bitch. 6 months later, I got the pedigrees. And they were basically brother and sister paired together. but the the parents were brother and sister put together, and that they needed to cross. And I do think, John, I think a lot of people start getting this inbreed thing into them. Oh, we're going to inbreed this, and we're going to inbreed that. We're going to inbreed this, and it sounds real good. You almost sound like a mad scientist, right? But
Well, yeah, yeah, but it's interesting because there are guys that have one like that, which I believe the Florida Derby that I believe that individual won with a very closely line bred bird. I know, uh, one of our number one breeders that fly over here in California, the Vasquez brothers. They always have one pigeon on one side that's real close, brother sister, father daughter mating, and they cross back out, and they've done phenomenal. I know Walt Durfel out of Canada. He breeds real close. He stays within his family of pigeons, and he's had some issues here and there, but overall he's done. Overall he's done fantastic. So I can't really comment on that because I'm not one to really breed like that.
but what I'm saying is, guys get it in their head. We got comments. Guys get in their heads. They're going to do this inbreeding. But when you inbreed, yes, you're breeding good qualities. Okay. But you're also breeding, you're focusing still on the bad qualities. 100%. The weakness comes in. And I often have always said to people, what are you inbreeding? What is so great on why you want to inbreed it? What's the reason behind it? It won a 150-mile club race, and I'm going to pair it back to its mother. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes people get so caught up, they over inbreed. And again, that brings a little bit, I think, a gateway open to pick up thickness because I don't think they handle the stress the same way. Now, okay, I'm going to stop. We're taking a deep breath. We got comments. People are getting mad. They're throwing stones at me. Okay, first of all, I got to say aloha to my man Milton in in Hawaii. He says, "Hey guys, the question we had from 888888 account. I like nine better, but you picked eight. It's okay. I'm still your friend. John, can you speak on sprint type pigeons or crossed for your race? Have you seen results recently from that type of pigeon?"
Yes, and there. You back on?
We're there. Take it away.
Um, yes, I've seen, 3 or 4 years ago when the Kittle pigeons were coming on board. Uh, hey, I was new to it. I didn't know what the hell it was myself, and guys are crossing them in, and they might not fly them straight, but they'll fly 50% or a quarter, and they've done well. Um, from I believe Paul Daniel to the latest 2 years ago, Gus JoJo's Loft. He had a super. David Klossing, who I haven't we haven't talked about I haven't talked about yet, but Dave. With his family of pigeons, he brought in pigeons from Ayer Camp, the Leo Hermans, and crossed in, and he had that bird Super Dave, and turned out well. So yes, this is a course that it's still on the faster side, 14s, 15s. Very, very seldom we see above that. Not to say that it can't happen because Mother Nature's changing, and it did happen one time. But it seems to be that the pigeons they'll hit hard and then boom, that's it. They on this East course because I guess they choose different valleys or the winds push them south, and then that's it. Sayonara.
Yeah, and I will say in any one loft race, wherever you go in the world, I think you're better to go with more sprint middle distance pigeons to long distance pigeons. But if you're doing the encore races, if the race gets tough, you want still to have some tougher nose pigeons, but you're never going wrong. Like Marcel Curleman says, listen to you all. Everything is built off of sprints. The sprinters stretched them to the short middle. Then they took them to the middle distance. And that's how it goes. It goes from there. I believe in the sprint pigeons. I believe in the short middle distance and the middle distance pigeons, and I believe in the long distance. But I will say, for most of the races in the U.S., I would go with a faster pigeon. I would almost do that anywhere in the world. Now, who am I? Who knows? UK Birdman 673 says, this one's for you, John. This is a tricky one. This is going to test your skills. If you have young bird sickness, how do you deal with it? Wait a minute. How do you deal with it in your own loft, and how do you deal with it in your one loft? Is there two different ways?
Yeah, real simple. I mean, depends what the issue is and how many birds you're talking. If it's just an eye cold, a mycoplasma, you got to set it aside. If it's just not looking like it's treatable, boom, trash can. There's no reason to go further. And that's even in my own backyard. I'm at a point. Doesn't matter if it's a good breeder. We move away from it because it's the access. Now, this is on the breeding scale. Access of getting good pigeons, I think, are a lot easier than they were years ago. In the one loft race, you know, if a pigeon, you have to look at it this way: you got 1,000 birds in the loft, and you got 3%, 4%, 8% that are just garbage, and it's going to happen. So that means you're talking 4 out of 100 pigeons, 8 out of 100 pigeons. I am not going to do that breeder any justice by holding on to it. If it comes to the tail end and it's time to, we can't take any replacements, then so be it. But if the breeder has time to replace, I'd rather say, hey, change it out. We'll leave this one alone. If it's here, then it's because they will change. I'm not saying that, you can't get over the hurdle with anything. But if it really gets severe, any kind of health issue, I just, we're not gonna mess with that.
Yeah.
I'm at,
So
I mean, I'm at a point now, even with the one loft race pigeons, if there's, the strongest ones are going to survive and you move forward. Those are the ones you cater to. You're not going to be catering your whole loft to the 3% and over medicating and throwing everybody off. That's the wrong thing to do. It's just like a race. So many one loft races, they had a bad one. The weather's iffy. Well, we're gonna hold back and wait. You just messed up the whole race, and you did the guys that really had good pigeons. You did them wrong. That's just my belief. Of course, everybody would like to have another shot at it to go for the next race. But if the good pigeons are coming, and or I should say, I'm going off topic, but if you have pigeons that are not right, it's a small percentage in the loft. Remove them, isolate them. You could treat them or eliminate them. Don't affect the whole flock. There's no reason for that.
yeah, and you gotta you almost somewhat play God, but you're playing for the whole group, and I appreciate that. And guys, in your own loft, you have that feeling always inside. Take a look, boy, that looks bad. Normally, when you say that, it's just put it in the bin. You're not gonna bring them back. I wouldn't mess around with it. That's my opinion. I never seem to find the ones that come back, but I have seen what John said. Birds are a little bit off. They're hurting. They're a little fluff. They're not bad. They're not humped up, almost dead in the corner. They look off. They'll come back, okay, fine. But there's ones you can't save. You're better off to say pull them aside than to mess around because you know what? You're going to mess around. And I've seen, John, I experienced young bird sickness real bad 2007. I think I had an 80 bird team. It come through me. I went down to about 35 youngsters. It took 6 weeks to go through them.
Yeah,
John, I couldn't drink enough. It was basically suicidal. And then all of a sudden, it broke. I got it before the race season, had 35 pigeons, and I went on to have the best season of my life. Those birds were
yeah,
phenomenal. And, I always try and say to people with pigeons, what's so great about it is it's a high and a low, an up and a down. It's a roller coaster, John. And people got to understand that it's one of the greatest natural drugs, pigeon racing, because it happens to you. And it even in your one loft racing, I'm sure it happens to you the same way. It's on a high for you, ups and downs, and this and that. Now, with the group that you have, when you know how you see pigeons going light or pigeons being off, and the last groups are going to come in, so everybody goes into the loft. At what point, when the whole group is together, at what point do you? Is there a time where you say, okay, the next 3, 4 weeks, and then there's no more problems, or will you still see the odd problem right through, even as you train? Birds, the odd
Well,
one falls off. Do you notice
yeah, I
that?
mean, when I get it, when I'm, 4 weeks into, I really start getting into the birds to fly or train. Yeah, then I start hitting them with the program. Um, and some pigeons will break down, and there's nothing you can do about it. Then you get into the training aspect, and that's when you go daily, and it doesn't matter if it's 10 miles or 30, 40 miles or 50 miles. Some pigeons will still break down, and then they'll disappear. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the strong pigeons. You're looking for the healthy pigeons. You're looking for pigeons that are resilient. That's to me is supposed to be part of it, of what we're accomplishing. And I again, if you're flying a course that a lot of pigeons always return, well, then it's not really challenging. When you get into a course where, as we get into this training mode later, on when we show you the elevations and the winds, and that's what I'm used to. I can't really speak for anybody else. Um, I just know that, hey, the strongest ones, the smartest ones will be there, and Mother Nature weeds them out. That's it.
Very, very true. And people got to have tough skin. And sometimes I think people think, to buy pigeons, and they think just because the pedigrees, it takes time, it takes a lot of studying. And you talk about certain guys, Joe and Amalka or Greek Connection, the way they study the pigeons, and they don't have a lot of birds. They study, study. They're ruthless, but the birds they send get the job done. We've got a comment here from Mr. Peevler. Again, I think he's the original Chips Ahoy guy who started Chips Ahoy cookies, the Peevler. Anyways, he says, "Do you did not Greg McElroy first shot was when they're banded in the nest? What do you think about doing it when they're banded in the nest? That's real young. I'm laughing, but hey, pigeon men will do weird stuff. You think that's too early?
I mean, I know guys that have done it. A week after banding, I've seen it done. But like I said, sometimes you get into these vaccines. I don't know. Sometimes, you know, um, sometimes, like you just said with DeBucker, vaccinating these birds. These pigeons are small. They can only take so much. So those are all variables that we have to look at. Even though, some guys don't want to vaccinate, you still need to, because, you know, some of this stuff to me is it's airborne. What's going on in the pigeon world on diseases. I know, like in my neck of the woods, which is 100 miles away, 150 miles away. These guys, I mean, they had a problem 3 months ago, and now you got more guys with problems, and they're not racing. The season's done, and they're not commingling pigeons, but they're all within a 5-10 mile, loft location, and they got some serious health issues. So
Yeah,
that's why you vaccinate, and some of it is pigeons coming in out of Europe, and it's just no different than like us as a human beings going to different countries having to do all our different shots.
yeah, yeah. A question here from the UK Birdman. I had a pigeon missing for a couple of weeks. Picked it up today in the basket. It's vomiting. Seemed vomiting some seeds. So keep an eye on it. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a kind of guy who brings birds home in baskets. I always say that's the number one X. If someone gets a bird from me, or a stray. I never, if I have to go and pick a pigeon up, it's removed from the loft. I do not play around with that. It's just going to cause me more problems. So I don't know if I'd waste my time, UK Birdman. UK Birdman also asks, what's your opinion on the Rota virus?
It's horrible. It's deadly. That's why you take the precautions, and that's one of the things. That's actually the disease that these guys in Orange County are going through, because one of the guys a few months back had his birds tested, and because it not only affects the young birds, but it's affecting your breeders. And I mean, I've got a good friend of mine that he had 30 pair of pigeons, and now he's down to, I believe, four, and all in the course of I think by the second week of racing, which was in March, and here we are 3 months later, and he still hasn't gotten rid of it. And to me, you get a situation like that, really severe. Well, it's in the walls of the loft now too. So those are all things you have to consider. That, and he has an older loft. That's this gentleman. I mean, he's got a loft that's like 30 years old, maybe a little older than that. So I don't think he's going to get away from it. I think it's prevalent in the pigeons that he has, and those pigeons that survive. You have to be careful that those are not carriers, because it will continue the cycle on. And then my suggestion, like for this particular person, is you got to inoculate every bird, and the weaker ones have got to go. And that again, for like a one loft race, that's where it's difficult even for me. I mean, because I know there's guys that, I mean, the last few weeks, I mean, I asked these people, when did you vaccinate? What did you use? Just so I have a precautionary protocol on how I'm going to handle it. Because again, I just, I see these things that are happening, and it's something that's happened for the last 3-4 years. A lot of one left guys don't even talk about it, but I mean, I know a couple bigger ones that had issues like this, and it all went back to different types of vaccines.
Hey, you're hearing it, guys. You're hearing what he's doing. This is what I'm saying. He's not taking your perch fees and doing nothing. He's analyzing, he's studying. He wants your birds to make it. He wants you to do good. That's a hell of a good loss manager. 8888888 account. I still like nine better, but you like eight. For young bird racing, how strongly do you feel about road training with other lofts as the season gets close? Important or not? I have my opinion, John. What's yours?
I believe that you want to stay on your own line as long as you can. But hey, prior to a race, it's always, to me, depending on how big the birdage is. I think if you're like Ryan, you're dealing with thousands of pigeons. I mean, it's good to get some individual breaking, but if you're only talking 200-300 pigeons, you could get away with staying on your line. I mean, just staying by yourself. But to me, you're just always better educating your pigeons, staying on that line of flight.
John, you work with the one loft birds, and we're going to get totally into your training. We've got a whole training video. I'm going to be down there in July, August to sort of do some videoing. But we did a whole video on your training, which we haven't released yet. And the way you train, I call it you lift up every little stone along the way. You really give them the confidence. And I try and tell people, sure, I can go and train with my buddies. I can save gas and go train with them. I'm not going to do that until I can say to myself, my birds are ready to race. You can't shake them. They're bulletproof. They've been screwed up, messed up, had bad tosses. They are 100% bulletproof. That's why I don't train with other people. I trained last week with Marcel and another guy. I already had 40 tosses into my young birds. I said, hey, it's okay. It's no problem. For me, it's fine. I didn't have a bad toss. My birds come out and led the group. I'm happy with this. But guys, going up together with other guys, if you're going to go up with other guys, I say, hey, between each group, 15, 20 minutes. Give it some time. Let them go. Let them go. Don't put them up together and say, well, we're going to teach them. Because, hey, you're not teaching them nothing but to get confused and screw up. That's my opinion. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Well, yeah, if you have the time to sit there and wait, I always my attitude has always been, well, if they get together this time, I got tomorrow to do it again. So it depends on what people are working or they got to be home for the kids or whatever the situation. Um, but of course, if you
Yeah.
could, if you could do those tosses where the birds get a little bit of independence, that's what they got to learn, and it just takes time. And that's sometimes that's a plus when you are releasing with doing a mass release. But if you're going in competition, you want to kind of win. You kind of want to stay on line and pound them. And when I say pound, less than an hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes a day, to me.
Yeah. You're putting the birds through the paces. Um, Let me ask you, because people are gonna ask this question. I know you're not near training yet. Before your first race or activation race, we can call it, before it gets real crunch time, your one loft race, roughly how many times will the birds be trained? What's your estimation number, give or take?
Well, I'm 5, 6 days. I'm yeah, 6, 7 days a week in the beginning for the first couple months. And it's not far though, it's just repetition. And once I stretch out to 50 miles, once I'm actually into the desert, which is 65, 70, then I'll try to go every other day. But that's not till I don't get to that point till about a month before or 3 week, 2 weeks, 2 weeks before activation. And I've had this situation as well where, for myself, for my course, it just depends on the weather. When we drop into the desert, it's the temperatures at that time is still at times is still very, very warm. When I say warm, we're talking 100 degrees, and you can't be releasing, birds can't make mistakes. And I've learned, sometimes you just got to hold back because you do all this work, and if you blow them away on a hot day, especially when they're learning, you just did everything for nothing. And same applies for the winds, and that's something that's coming through the mountain passes, and you got gusts of 20, 30 miles. Not worth it. Just wait. You have to, because you'll throw them away in that too. The machismo thing of all the best ones will come, well, that's all bullshit, because you lose good ones and bad ones on those days. If it's a
Yeah.
final, if it's a race, that's a different story. You're setting them up and you get to see. But when it's just training, they're not set up for that, right? It's just you're just conditioning, and that's where people sometimes make the mistake. They'll take those chances, and they take those chances. You lose pigeons.
John, have you ever noticed uh, pigeon men to make themselves feel good? Eh, We all do it a little bit. Oh, I only got the good ones home. I believe when that first training, those first 20 tosses, 25 tosses, I always say you want to make the mission doable. You want to make them come home without real big problems. And, I'm training here now. I'm at 40, 45 tosses. I got rain heavy. I got rain that you could literally wash your whole family's clothes in, going down and stuff, and patches of it. And I'm out there now and I'm playing and it's okay. They're coming, they're working their way, but it's being consistent. But 20 tosses before that, I don't play the pigeons at all like that. I don't play them into that. I don't work them that way because you're going to beat them. You're going to ruin them. You're going to lose them. So I think people, give yourself enough tosses, educate them so they know what they're doing and they're confident, and you will get way better results. My friends in Australia, they say to me all the time, well, this guy's losing birds. They train them 6 times and put them into the first race. What do you expect, John?
Well, it's interesting, right? The old timers, they always look. I mean, here we are, 30 years later, and here we are with young pigeons. They're young pigeons. 3 months old, 4 months old, 7 months old, and you're giving them so much time to acclimate to a course and to come home. And the old timers, they would let the young birds was just a learning curve.
Yeah,
So those are all things that I remember, and you just have to play it safe, because you have to remember, you know, in your backyard racing, your team is your team, and if you make a silly mistake, and you blow that super, you blow 5 hens away or 10 cocks, you handicap yourself. So you have to be more careful through the training process. One loft racing is the same way. That's why I start as early as possible, the best I can. And yeah, am I nervous? 100%. This year especially, I got 500 pigeons here in the last 3-4 weeks that I got to work with, and it's like Jesus, well, that's a little over exaggerated, but 300 for sure. Um, and I got a 8 week window to get it going. So, but that's part of it. That's part of the game. That's part of the sport, and that's why I tell breeders, hey, you don't want to be the first one when it comes to the loft, but you don't want to be the last one either. You try to find yourself in the middle and get your pigeons in, because it just makes things a little bit more easier for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah. You're 100%. There's no, I don't think there's no perfect time. John, I've heard it a lot of the. I hear it in chats or I see it. People, I call these very uneducated pigeon men, but and I'm sure you've heard this. But I always love this statement that people say. Well, he took in 2,000 birds and lost. He lost 800. Well, he's sure saving money on the feed. He must be happy about that. Like, I don't know how people that are participating in these races say stuff like this. 100%, you're trying to get as many birds to the race. Do you ever say, "Oh boy, I'm saving money on the feed"? You don't even notice it. You're in it. You want to get as
For me, my critical points are the first 10 miles. I mean, that's always the game with any loft. 10 miles is, so many things can go wrong. But in my neck of the woods, absolutely, if the birds overshoot, and I've experienced it, a falcon hit the flock. You could drop 100 birds, 150 pigeons, and it happens. Even with all the short tosses of doing what you're doing, it's young pigeons. It's, you do what you got to do to get them right, the health and everything on board. But in the end, when you turn them out and you're dealing with, variable winds or a little bit of heat coming on in the middle of the day, or, and you're dealing with a topography that is different elevations, believe you me, I've experienced it, and it's yeah, you're saddened because you're kicked in the balls before you really even got going. But it happens. That's pigeon racing.
yes. So now, and I want to just switch gears. Now you're coming to the end. Okay, this Saturday it's the cutoff. So you're going to actually eliminate one whole process because everybody's in the loft for the next, let's say, 4 weeks for the Royal Cup California Classic birds. What is the game plan for
Well,
them?
the game plan is I already started ahead of time with pulling flights. The Royals already 3/4 of the way done. I got about, again, these later ones that have come in the last couple of weeks. I'll pull flights, but I'm giving them 10 days. And the older ones are ready for the Royal. I already started letting them out, and they're handicapped. But again, with such a weird season with the weather and later ones coming in, I got to get them out. And same applies for the California. And you're just hoping you don't get hit with the predator. But yeah, the weather's great. If it continues to be great, that's okay. The pigeons would be out daily, and 5 weeks, 6 weeks, the flights will be in, and we're ready to, then we're ready to start pushing. So here we are at the 10th. I'd say by the second, third week of July, end of July, I could start pushing them to fly. Up until this point, still, they're just going to be cruising. They do what they want, just being happy and just knowing the routine. That's all I'm looking for right now.
All right, for people wondering, pulling flight, stuff like that. is there a certain way you like to do it? Is there a certain procedure? Do you cut them? Do you? Is there something that you do? Certain style, something?
Yes, I always cut them 10 days. They got to be minimum 10 days and then pull 10 to 12. But I prefer to pull them when they've dropped at least 2 flights. If they haven't dropped 2 flights, that some of you have a tendency, those flights, the 9 or 10, they could come in crooked. And, then you got an issue. And nobody's happy with that.
Okay, so my next question is, and again, this is a newbie, a novice question. Why do they have to drop two flights before you pull
It's just what I found. It's like getting the system going of the bird. Uh, they just, once they're in that mode of maturity, then they molt out better.
them?
If they don't have that maturity and you start pulling flights, then things could go south on the bird. And again, like we talked about a few weeks ago, why do we pull them? Well, a lot of it is, here in the States, we like to have a full wing. I mean, we all know that there could be a handicap. So we do our best, and guys have taken notice, and this, so everybody, gets on board. But when it's all said and done, there are no guarantees that that pigeon with the flight pulled is going to win. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it many times. The ninth missing, the eighth missing, the 10th is halfway, and the bird wins the race.
Hmm.
So, I mean, and I'm not saying that, natural is the best way to go, but sometimes natural, it would be the easiest way to go for all of us. But myself included, my ego gets in a way where I know I want a pigeon to be, we want that pigeon to be 100%.
Yeah,
So
there's a certain level you want to get them to perform. So your clients, not only your clients, but the pigeon has the best opportunity to do the course. Correct?
correct.
All right. And again, that's what it's about. It's about what John wants. It's about the health and safety of the pigeon. And hey, you the breeder, you're going to say, hey, most of the time birds have a nice full wing. And John, I'm going to we got some comments. I'm going to throw this out there. If you had 100 birds going to the final, or you have 1,000 birds going to the final, how many of those birds are roughly full winged? What would you say the percentage is? 75%?
In my lot, yeah, probably 75%, 80%, full winged. Yeah.
Yeah. And guys, that's a very, very good playground. Very fair. Now, I will. I'm going to ask you this: pulling the flights. Gosh, and I had a real good question, and it slipped my mind. Hey, John, I hate when that happens. You went on another road, and then I threw a question in, and I screwed myself. Okay, you know what? It'll come back to me. Give me a minute. 888 He's asking a lot of questions. Again, if you change it to all nines, I'm going to like you better. But it's okay. Thank you for your question. What date would you send pigeons for your race, and what age would the pigeons be ideal for your situation? So, John, if you were going to play in the California Classic or the Royal Cup, how old would they be, and what week or month would you send them?
Well, I mean, like again, I prefer uh, pigeons coming in April, anytime in April. And that ensures that your birds, will be molted second, third flight, and there's no problems with the molting. But I will say, like this younger group of pigeons that I've received in the last few weeks, I mean, so many things can still happen health wise, but overall, it's a nice group of pigeons. And again, that depends on on their environment, and having this warm weather is a bonus. And pigeons, these younger pigeons, I mean, I was asked a week or so ago, by another person who does an OLR, and he had a pigeon to send to me, and he says, "Well, do you think you need to pull them? Just let them be." And I'm like, dude, um, a lot of times these pigeons, when you receive them late May, first week of June, if it starts really warming up, these pigeons on their own will drop one, two flights. You know, some guys I know in the past three, but a lot of times if it's warm and the health is there, the pigeons will go through a fast molt. It's when you're dealing with this dreary cold weather. I mean, yeah, you could play with lights, but Mother Nature will have a lot to do with what's going to happen with the birds. And that's what I said, from day one I mean, when we did when we did that live video introduction to the Royal, and we talked about, well, what do you think of health, this and that? I said, it's all based on the weather. And a week later, these guys racing had a problem, and again, what happens in Texas, what happens in Florida, what happens in California, Northern Cal. It's going to be relative. A lot of it on what's happening with Mother Nature. And
You
the
know,
same
yeah, go ahead, John. Finish up.
and same applies when you're going to be road training. All that's going to be. I mean, they got this Texas Center race going off in Texas in a few weeks. And Paul Daniels is a handler of that, and I think he's doing a fantastic job where he's dealing with the 75-80% humidity. Totally different than what he encounters when he flies his own race. I mean, this race will not be a 300. It'll be, I think it's a 175, 200-mile race. But for what those pigeons have to go through now in training, it's freaking horrible.
Yeah.
And it's been like
Yeah.
that for these guys. And some guys have done better. I mean, but they always seem to get birds. But it's tough. It's not like flying in the winter months where it's cool.
You know, I'm going to throw this out here because I was at the Texas Center maybe 8 years ago, and Paul Daniels, he was a handler, and not knocking anybody that takes on that responsibility. It's a hell of a job. It's a hell of a job taking birds from all over, and I think it was 175 or a 200-mile race, and I think at like 7 o'clock in the morning, like 95 degrees, 87 to 95. And the race went off and they got no daybirds. And I watched Paul pull out his hair from his cowboy hat. I watched him pull it out. And I talked to him and he said, I trained them super early in the morning, super early in the morning, super early in the morning. Like when it's cool, cool, cool. And I always try and tell people, I'm not flying that, but I know one thing. Push the pigeons into max heat. Once they're conditioned and they're educated and they're getting up there, I teach them to be into the heat to the max of their ability. Now, that's extreme heat there. I don't know if they can get birds from 200 miles on the day when they let them out at 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 hours on the wing. I don't know. But I will say to people, if you want them to play in the heat, you have to condition them into the heat. I think a lot of people look for coolness, 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 coolness. I'll say this. In Belgium here, they let the pigeons out when it hits 10 degrees. When you smell 50,000 pigeons coming out of 10 trailers, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning and it just hits 10 degrees, all you smell, John, is pure pigeon sweat. The heat is high. The guy like Stefan Lambert says, those races, if you don't syringe those pigeons, you're done. They don't get it.
Well,
They don't get.
it's the humidity, but it's that dew point. If that dew point gets high, pigeons won't come. And it's the same thing like over here in our neck of the woods. We're dealing with the complete opposite, where you're dealing with 8%, 12% humidity, very dry. And again, it's special pigeons will come through. Not all. Pigeons. They do make it, and but you're right. It's in order to condition them, you do your best to fly in those conditions to get the birds acclimated to that.
And I'm not here to rip on Paul. I know, hey, it's hard. You try to do your best, and that's the great part. But always remember, guys, think outside the box. That's when the winning happens. When you think outside the box, when you're willing, John, I say it, you have your intake room. Guys, watch the video. His intake room. That's thinking outside the box. It's easy to take them out of a box and they come and throw them into the loft and say, oh, yeah, there's enough room. John, lifting all the little stones to get your birds to the max. That is called winning. That's why he's the GOAT. That's why year in and year out. No, John, hey, no, I'm not blowing smoke because we're doing this shit, eh? You fucking earned it. That's the truth.
Well,
But
hey,
you,
I appreciate it, but there's a lot of guys. There's some good friends of mine that are still around kicking, and you could call me the goat. They look like the goat, but they have that knowledge. My good friend John there in Florida. I mean, him and his brother. Just they got a lot of experience and a lot of stories, and you learn. I mean, he's a perfect example of someone who a lot of the top lofts stubborn, right? I mean, that's the motivation they have behind it, and a lot of times that stubbornness, you crash and burn, and
yeah.
you become more humble. And I think that's for myself over the years. I've just become more humble, and hey, it's pigeon racing. You're on point, and you hope the key is to have some good pigeons in your loft, and then you go from there. And then it's just common sense.
100%. UK Birdman says, can we send pigeons from the UK to your race? I don't know how easy it is. Yes, you can do anything. You can. You can get them there. What do you think, John, from the UK to your race?
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, I mean, there's different fanciers in Canada that will receive them and forward them through. Jesse
Even
Saguna, I believe, is doing that now, and
Daniel Hash, I think.
maybe Dan. Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but there's Hitham.
Oscar
Hit,
DeVries, Big Andy.
yeah, Hitham out of New York is he's actually grown real big. Doing a lot of Kuwaiti pigeons, and so yeah, I mean things are going forward in our sport with receiving pigeons. I just wish that our regulations here in California would be a little easier, but time will tell.
I always say John needs to build a breeding center for guys that want to send pairs to send to this race. His attention to detail is perfect. And I've said to John, he's the one that needs to do it in the United States to be the first one to do it. And I hope he does. Because if he builds a breeding center for your birds, your breeders, so you guys can play, you international players can play, I think it'll be first class. And I 100% not only trust it, I recommend it. And you'll win money. You'll have a great time. You come for the race. Guys, go on the website, look at the videos, look at the setup. This guy, he puts on a great show. UK Birdman says, and UK Birdman, I'm going to answer this so John doesn't have to. In your opinion, what's the most prestigious one loft race in the world to win and why? In my opinion, everybody looks at big numbers. Uh, Bataya or Africa Pro. John, I think your race is really prestigious. I think it's a Champions League race.
Oh,
It's
I believe that 100% because I know, as I've said, numerous times, and not just me, but the breeders that have done well, the pigeons that have won, when many pigeons don't come, these pigeons that have carried these breeders on for 5 years to a decade later, and again, that's why I say that's where it's real special. We've had big prizes. I've had huge big winners. Not because there was thousands of birds in the race, because there was limited amount of pigeons that would come or score. But that's what makes it fun, and that's what over the years that we used to I used to kick myself and go, what the hell, But in the end, there's an organization that's flying 100 miles north of us that have experienced that. You know, uh, not the returns being difficult, put it that way. but in the end, it's good pigeons. I mean, there was a fancier years ago. He's not talked about much lately, but he was one of the best, John Namath. And Namath raced the course. Like again, he was 100 miles north of us, and he just developed a family of pigeons that didn't matter fast, slow. They were just good birds.
Yeah, I know the name. The name was always at the top of the sheets.
Yeah,
Always,
yeah. Namath was
always stealing money.
John. John passed away. I think John passed away, I believe, 3 years ago. But I mean, 2, 3 years ago. But he was a fancier that he just had a love for this sport, and I met him as a kid going to derbies and stuff, and he was just man, he was all pigeon. And those are the guys that get inspired me to carry on to what I'm doing, and here we are.
Yeah, yeah. My question, well, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna ask yet. Teal Family Loft says, "Hey guys, he's listening while he's lawn mowing. JD's always on a lawnmower. I mean, John, if you need landscaping work done, JD
Hey,
Teal, he's
let
your
me tell
guy.
you, let me tell you, JD is a beast. He's somebody that I got to meet actually in Texas, and JD, he's about the size of you, but he's cut up. This guy's ripped.
Hold on, John, do me a favor, bud. I just want to let you know that in the world of pigeon racing, I cracked the top 50 best looking pigeon men in the world. Okay, I did it, John. Don't give me this shit." Anyway, JD Teal, you're ripped. I know. I can still crush you. It's okay. You want to know why? I just don't have a stop engine. There's no stop button on me. I don't stop. No. Enjoy your lawn mowing. Thank you for listening to the show, JD. We're just having some fun. And I like the photos you post with your daughter. Nice to see getting your kids involved. Uh, uh, Lou says pigeons will adapt to the heat, but Ryan, you need to train your birds in the heat. Hey, listen, if I'm flying in Texas Center, I'm playing pigeons 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock. Short, build them until they can handle it, and keep going, keep going, keep going. But I haven't done it in Texas, so I can't say that it'll work. I would try it. Lou also says birds racing in Thailand and the Philippines, some crazy humidity, heat, some birds will adapt. So birds will adapt. So birds will adapt. My reading's bad. Yes, they will adapt. Humans will adapt. Everything will adapt, but you have to put the time in. You can take a canary to the Arctic. If you put it outside when it's freezing, it's not going to work. But if it's warm and it adapts through the season, it works. We do it in Canada all the time. Milton says, John and Ryan, what are your personal favorite bloodlines for one off racing? The winning ones.
Oh boy, I
Come
mean,
on, John, pick a favorite.
last week you guys we talked about it. I said the Leo Hermans and the Gabby and Cannibal Cross, but you know what? Um, the last few years, I mean, Nemelka's been a killer in the race, but the last few years there's another gentleman, JoJo's, and he acquired I believe it was a hen from Florian direct, and that pigeon 2 years ago scored for him. I believe it was a first drop. But then he loaned the bird to his good friend Robert Burge, who came back and won ace pigeon and was on the first drop again off the same hen, again from Florian. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, we could say luck, we could say a lot of things, but when these people come with the same birds on top, I mean, I know for a fact JoJo was one of those guys probably going back 5, 10 years ago. I can't win that race, John. I'm ready to quit. And it was actually Robert Bird said you need to get some special pigeons, and I don't know how he did, but he did. He acquired a good one from Florian, and you know, changed the game for him. And not to say it's good; it can change the game forever because better pigeons are coming on board, and what kind of weather are we going to get this year? But for 2 years off of that hen, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, 100%. People don't realize. going out and getting, you can go on, I see sites there, you're buying grandchildren and great grandchildren, and you're going to buy 300 grandchildren to get one. I sometimes say buy the direct children from the right pigeons, and you will move quicker. You're buying time, but you're going to spend. And people say, well, I'm buying great grandchildren. I think you're just burning your wheels, man. You got to invest a little bit. Think about it, eh? You go to a one loft race, you go to Pattaya, you go to Africa Pro, you're spending 5, 6 to 1,000 per pigeon. What are you sending? Invest
Well,
in your breeding.
here's an example. Another, I just mentioned him a few minutes ago. My buddy John Stevens, John and Jeff. So going back, I believe it was 10, 12 years ago, we flew the 350, and we called that race the Second Wind. And that particular day, that we didn't have the apps like we do now, but it turned out to be a horrendous day where sandstorms on the desert, snow in the mountains, and just freaking overcast at home. It wasn't a day where you would think any pigeon would come. And John happened to be there. There was probably, I think it was probably six of us, because we were just six of us were able to get into the gazebo comfortably because it was freaking cold. And anyways, it was getting late, and I had a two-bird drop. One was John Gutierrez, and the other one was John Stevens. And we named that pigeon for John. It was called the Sandman.
Yeah.
And my point is, there's been many times John's not a big player in the race. He's a fantastic pigeon man. And he's old school. He's there to select his best for the race, and he goes with it. But he's been in a lull, right? But that pigeon won for him. But then that pigeon carried on to be a good breeder for him, and it also carried on for him to see siblings that did well because of the race. Now, mind you, 15 years or 12 years later, he wins Pattaya with the same half of the same family.
Mhm.
Biggest race in the country, the same blood. But he was very fortunate to find a cross, to find a pigeon that caught his eye, to mate with something within that family, and it clicked. And it won in his backyard. I think he won the 600 with the same stuff, and that's what led him to send the same type of bird to Pattaya, and then he wins Pattaya. So, but it goes back to the performance, the bloodline. I mean, it wasn't, of course, the Sandman. I mean, because there was other numerous good pigeons in that family of birds. But my point is, I can't win. I can't win. But it's about patience, and that's what sets the record of you're looking at the genetics. You're looking at trying to make a huge accomplishment within your loft to score. And that's what my point, what I'm trying to say, is that you can't always look at the dollar signs. Yeah, that's great, it's fantastic, but we're here to raise pigeons also, and you're here to upgrade your loft. You can't always buy the best. You gotta breed it. You gotta look at your family of birds as well, and then try to acquire a pigeon to cross in and move forward.
Mm. Hey guys, you're hearing it here. Leo Washington says the Hoosier, if they remember to press the record on the cameras. Hey, Jimmy, listen. Jimmy's got everything going on over there. He's throwing 17 different kinds of smoke. Jim is doing great. He's getting thinner by the day. He's looking great. He's doing everything. Jimmy wants him. Jimmy is on it, and Mike is helping him along the way. And I think it's great. The Hoosiers, they're going to do great things. If you want to play in the Hoosier, go on to Indiana. The corn is great as well. And hey, if it goes to shit, just start a fire. Moving on. Sorry, John. I know that might have touched you the wrong way, but I always like a bit of fire in my.
Anyways, back to my story. Like this pigeon, the Sandman. I mean, what a phenomenal bird. That's a pigeon in all the years. I shouldn't say just the Sandman, because it was also John Gutierrez's pigeon. Um, John's, it was the two birds, but I know John, with the family birds that him and Jeff have, that they've done well. Well, mind you, that same family of pigeons for Aztec wins the Hoosier, wins Victoria Falls, and from what I'm not mistaken, Ramiro told me that they're champion in Big Andes for old bird racing. Half for that Verhey blood.
Yeah, isn't it funny how you'll find it all of a sudden it follows and it's like boom, 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 boom. It happens,
Well, that's just
guys.
it. I mean, we all, when we don't win or we can't score, we have an excuse. And I'm not saying everybody, but sometimes you just have to man up and you have to look at what you really got. Because in this game of racing pigeons, for all the newbies that are out there, you can't always buy. You gotta make the changes to upgrade. But if they're no good, if they're not scoring or they're getting sick, get rid of them, move on, get some new birds, and that's not just that applies to all of us, and that's a yearly thing. That's what makes the sport ongoing.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, and it goes up and it goes down. And guys, when you're at your lowest in pigeon racing, normally the high's coming. You just got to get past that low. A buddy of ours from Canada here, Lou, says, bottom line is you could have the best of the best pedigree. If you don't use common sense and inform yourself with different people and yourself, you will learn that makes sense. You will not, you will not, well, okay. My reading was wrong on that. My apologies. Mr. Teal, what does he say? Only children off national winners, MPO winners, top 20 KDB national award winners. Anything else is not worth it. I'm not sure if I agree. I'm not sure if
Oh
I
fuck,
agree.
he's been mowing the lawn too long. He's got too much sun over there.
JD, I'm going to tell you, I know what you're looking for. I get it. Those birds that you're looking for, 101% of them more than likely go to China. You can find great pigeons. If those pigeons score in top national races, in top two, 300, not on the best lines where the wind's going, you find some really super pigeons. I'm just going to let you know on that one. Trust me, I'm here. I know. I feel it. Chris Martin says, super good advice. Chris Martin also says, I bought a super pigeon from Ryan's auction, feathers late. Willie Daniels has not let me down. Yes, Willie Daniels, super breeder. Again, John, I'll tell you, I was having drinks with Willie Daniels and Chris Clarabot, and he brought out Sarah and Nadine. I handled €1 million in two pigeons. And these two hens, John, it was like watching, you remember how ESPN used to put on, or they had was a beauty pageant, Miss America? They were fantastic. But yeah, super great hens from Willie Daniels. JD Teal says it's not the handler's fault. It is the breeder's fault for what they keep as breeders. And I do believe that. I'll say something, John. You can buy a pigeon and you breed it, let's say 4 or 5 times. You breed it 1 year, it doesn't hit. Switch it up, second year doesn't hit. Third year doesn't hit. You spent three, four, five, six, 10,000 on it, and you get gun shy, eh? You
Oh
get
yeah.
that shyness to say you're either going to be a pumper or to the bin. You have that?
Oh yeah. I mean, we all run into things like that. But I think over time, when you're really looking at pigeons, you just have to study, where you're sending the pigeons, and of course, you have to study on how the birds are looking. The question of like going back to the sprint pigeons, you know, you just have to be careful for the size. You just have to keep in mind the course, and because it's going to be different for everybody. Some are going to be dealing with more headwinds, some more crosswinds, some more tailwinds, and so those are all different factors that you just have to look at within your family of birds.
Yeah, 100%. John, we've been on for an hour and 20 minutes. We didn't think we were going to go that long tonight. I want to wrap this up. You guys have been great tonight participating on the One Loft Wednesdays with John Timmerman. Cutoff is this weekend. So, are you doing a pickup this weekend?
Yeah, it's the last pickup. Yes.
Last one. So, guys, you're at the end of the train here. The train's done. Hopefully, you guys have got birds in. I will be down in San Diego for obviously the week of racing. John, have you looked at hotels? What's going on? Is it going to be where it originally was, or are we going to the casino? What's your thought? I have people from Australia asking me.
We are most likely going to the casino. I went over pricing today, but I got to go back tomorrow to confirm. And but that's what it looks at. That's where we're looking towards. So when that happens, then in the next week or two, we'll provide a video, and you can see kind of what it looks like, and we'll go from there. Um, it's it's going to be a good time. San Diego, the Triple Crown, they got 500 pigeons. That's a good number to work with. For myself, with the Royal and the California, those are good numbers to work with. We could have a good party and a good time. And we just hope that the weather's good, and we could get some good racing. And that's our time of the year. Most of the time, we always have some nice weather. But shit, nowadays, right across the globe, we don't know what to expect. So we'll do our best.
Yeah, yeah. Amon's going to do good with that group. A couple more comments here before we wrap this up. Dean Pallett has the Willie Daniels and the direct children off the champions. Okay, maybe he does. I don't know. I haven't talked to Dean in a while. Uh, 88888. He has a lot of eights. He says, John, smaller pigeons do better in your race.
No, medium sizes, of course, but longer pigeons have always done better. And a lot of it is just, not lean. They got to be a little bit on the stronger side because of the crosswinds.
Yeah.
Not
My
too
man,
big.
just medium.
Yeah, medium. Yeah, medium's always good. Medium, a little longer. The cocks could be a little bigger, but you don't. I've never, on a very ball buster race, I've had bigger pigeons. But as times have progressed with different health programs, conditioning, medium-sized birds, never too small. I mean, it's just because the weather has always been, the winds are they can be tough. They can be tough on the open desert.
Yeah. Do you find deeper pigeons or not so deep, more apple
Um,
bodied?
no, I think deeper pigeons, a little deeper.
You're hearing it from John, guys. Oh, geez. My man there with the Rooster product. What's the name? Man on
Fly
Flow.
Pro.
Yes, Fly Pro. We will see you there in November. We will be there. Yes, I will be there. We're going to film the race. We're going to watch John do what he does best. Put the birds into the money for you guys. It's the last week. Hey, John, you ever think about it, eh? How much money you put in people's pockets? You won for them. You know what? You made not the money part, but you made a lot of super breeders. I believe you made a lot of super breeders, man.
Yeah, there's been, like I said, that's the for me as a handler, that becomes the most rewarding, especially like I said, we're talking, over a decade ago where, John has a pigeon that him and his brother, it turns out to be a special pigeon, and yet years later it carries on, in the family, which that's become special. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's what you're dreaming for. Because his family of pigeons goes back to shit. that goes back to Art Heast. That goes back to the 60s, 70s. The short face, but the Verheys, I believe it was in the mid 80s when they brought him in. And that family continued to, for Southern California for the longest time was on fire. And now he's doing well with those same pigeons in Florida. So it's a lot of history. And I know down in Guadalajara, they were always sought after as well. Well, they are. I mean, you look at the Aztec. He's one of the top lofts in the country, buys the best pigeons in the country. Well, what pigeons have put him on the map? Simple as that. What pigeons have put him on the map consistently? Royal Cup, Victoria Falls, Hoosier. I mean, ask him.
Ask him, guys. He's telling you to ask him. Do your homework. Take a look. But I will say one thing. If you are in the United States of America or Canada or Mexico, or if you have the balls to send your birds to the Royal Cup or the California Classic and you finish high, and if you can be in that money, even better, you just bring those birds back to your loft and try them out. And guess what? You play this race 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to have some damn good breeders because you will find it. You will find it. It doesn't have to be the first place bird that's up there, that's consistent, that's good, right there. Am I right, John? Try them out.
Yes, it's a challenge, man. But it's not. Good pigeons are hard to find, and people, the newbies that are out there. I mean, you got a 100 bird young bird team. You're lucky if you got one or two good ones on your team. That's just
Yes.
how that's the nature of the game.
Besides what the pedigrees say, forget the pedigrees.
Anybody
Remember,
that races, anybody that's is a pigeon man will tell you that it's not an easy sport. The sport is always challenging, let alone all the medication, vitamins, and all that stuff. But now it comes back to the genetics, and that's what makes the sport ongoing. Because from the guy that's 20 years old to the guy that's 80 years old, you're always trying to improve. And you got to look for you need to find the pigeons that they got to come home. That's number one. They got to come home.
they got to come home. Guys, we're going to wrap this one up. It's One Loft Wednesdays with John Timmerman. I say he's the GOAT. I mean it in a serious way. Very, very good pigeon man. Puts the work in from start to finish. If you come to the events, you will see what I mean. You'll see the quality of the birds. You see the trapping. You see the people there. You see the food. You see the setup. Notch. John, next Wednesday we're going to do this again. Next
All
Wednesday
right, guys.
we're gonna have some new footage for you guys. Again, thanks for everyone's support tonight. Again, you guys make this possible. Me and John are just we're just a vessel. We talk pigeons. One more thing. What's the best salmonella medication in both of your experiences? John, what do you think? I'll let you take it.
Well, to be honest, I haven't really hit my birds for salmonella for a few years. I've always hit them with Baytril when the time comes, only because it can knock them down, quite a bit. But the salmonella product that we got, what I used to use, came out of Colorado.
All right. And in Canada, we don't have any of it. So I don't use it, so I'm not going to talk on it because I'm not going to talk about something I don't know. Hey, John, we'll see you next Wednesday. Good luck this week. I hope you finish strong. And thanks for not only doing this show, but thanks for giving the people, the participants, the pigeons your very best. You know, a lot of the time people forget to say thank you. And I will say,
Oh, well,
on behalf of
I enjoy
everyone,
it.
thank you for
This
doing
is
what you
this is
do, man.
this is to teach my boy Denny over there in Escondido that you know got to be real, dude. And to his good friend Pete, got to pay attention. Got to pay attention.
Hey, I'll see you next week. Stay out of trouble. Enjoy the pigeons. It's over. The young birds are over. You're now moving to the next phase of the season. But good job, John. And again, thank you very, very much. That's John Timmerman. I'm Ryan. You guys have been watching the Feathers Elite Racing Pigeon Network on your One Loft Wednesdays. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Have a great evening. John, see you next week.
You're right.
Bye for
Bye,
now.
bud. Have a good day.
That was great. We hope you liked it. My wrap-up thought is gone, so we're going to use this one just to wrap it up. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. One Loft Wednesdays with John Timmerman. We will see you guys next Wednesday, 6 p.m. New York time. The fun is real. We hope you learned something. We hope you enjoyed it. We still have till Saturday. You guys have a great evening from Feathers Elite Racing Pigeon Network. We bring you the best racing pigeon pornography. Like, share, and subscribe. And as I always say, thank you very much for watching.